Hi guys and welcome. Today we're going to be doing a reading, Celtic Cross reading for an individual who is curious to know essentially whether or not they are spreading themselves too thin as they write. Let me just reread what they wrote in their email. Querent, you are working on a number of different projects, and basically you are trying to expand your scope as you write, and your concern is that you're spreading yourself too thin, possibly, and not focusing enough on your life purpose. And so your question is essentially whether or not that's true, and how you can better focus your energies toward your true will while maintaining financial independence? Well, first of all, that's a really tricky question because true will is something that is very personal and is something that really only you can fully understand or know about. So my advice to you today is likely to be possibly a little vague, with that being the case. However, we're still going to give it a shot, obviously, and see what it says anyway. Maybe it'll be more specific than I think. However, because I don't have any way of possibly knowing what your true will is, I mean, it's hard enough figuring out that truth for yourself. So, let alone figuring it out for someone else. So I'm not going to be able to necessarily really pinpoint what that is, but hopefully we can pinpoint whether or not you're currently following it and whether or not you're really, focusing on it as much as you could be. So, anywho, so you are a Gemini, and thank you for sending me all of that information, especially your natal chart, which is always interesting to me. And being a Gemini, we're going to be using the, of course you can't see with the glare, the Knight of Swords as your significator today. Alright. I invoke thee, Ea-O, that thou wilt send ahead of the great angel who art set over the operations of this secret wisdom, that he may lay his hands invisibly upon these consecrated guards of art, and that thereby we may obtain true knowledge of hidden things to the glory of thine ineffable name. Amen. Okay, so as you can see, of course, today I am using my Tot Tarot, partially because in your email you mentioned that you also use the Tot deck, but also because I felt like I haven't used it in a couple of videos, so I felt it was time. And I really apologize for whatever glare is coming from the window. There's not much I can do about that, but I'll do my best to try to tell you what's up here. So the overall situation that you have is the Seven of Cups, crossed by the Prince of Cups, crowned by the Ten of Cups, and yes, I am going back to my original way of doing it. People I work with call me GPS because I'm constantly redirecting and changing my mind about things. So it's kind of a curse in a sense. But anywho, I'm going back to the way I feel most comfortable with. So sorry, Rachel Polak. Anywho, alright, so now that we've got them all laid out, bottom of the deck is Four of Wands. Crowning you is the Ten of Cups. Base of the situation is the Five of Wands. In the past you have the Star. In the front, in the future you have the Three of Discs. And up the side you have, for your perspective, the Nine of Discs. Environment, the Prince of Wands. Hopes and fears, Five of Cups. And overall outcome, Prince of Swords. So, alright. Okay, so first of all, elementally, everything is relatively balanced, but you do have a slight surplus of water. You have more water cards than anything else. And in fact, water dominates the center of your reading. The problem and the overall situation card are both water. And again, those are the Seven of Cups and the Prince of Cups, if you can't see. And so what I'm getting is that in some way you are too emotionally invested in the different projects that you're doing in a way. It is almost like you're doing too much, and it's not necessarily that this is causing a distraction, but there's something else going on here that's not quite right, and I also want to point out, perhaps before I get out and go on, and this may be the reason for my interpretation of it as such, there's a lot of Mars in your reading that I find interesting. And the root of it comes from this Five of Wands, which is, of course, the Lord of Strife. So the basis of your situation has to do with competition and struggle and I don't want to say fighting, but fighting, certainly healthy competition has to do with it. And Mars is echoed, actually, not only through the fact that this is Gabora, but it's echoed in your crown card, in the Mars and Pisces. It's echoed in Mars and Capricorn. Slightly echoed through the Prince of Wands, very slightly, but not particularly, just because the two have a similar kind of energy, but they're not technically related. And you're also influenced here by Mars and Scorpio in your hopes and fears. There's a lot of Mars and very fiery elements in the reading, even though the preponderance of cards elementally is technically water. So the basis of this situation having to do with a kind of aggressive mindset and a kind of desire to compete and do really well, and you're clearly an ambitious type of person, and you've had a lot of big ideas in the past and a lot of big aspirations and big hopes and dreams, and that's clear to me by the star in your past. And these are things that are not necessarily affecting you now. It's almost like you're more engrossed in the more mundane aspects of things, mm-hmm. and just that you're concerned with material success, I think, quite a bit. And this is not necessarily a bad thing. I mean, your ascendant is Virgo. You do have a very practical mindset, but there's an aspect of this that is a little darker and is a little more private. I think there's a part of you at the moment that is what's the word I want? You're very stuck in your emotions right now, and I'm not sure how that's exactly connected to your work. But the Prince of Cups and the Seven of Cups, they get along really well, and they're usually indicative of a situation in which someone is usually keeping to themselves and are splurging on themselves in some fashion, and it usually is more detrimental than anything else. It doesn't have to necessarily be literal drug abuse or alcoholism or things like that, which is what the Seven of Cups is associated with. But it can represent a kind of giving in to pleasure in a way that is kind of weak. It's just sort of drowning in it in a way and being really reliant on it in order to feel good about oneself. And the Prince of Cups, again, is not the type of person who's going to be very vocal about this or is going to be very open about this behavior. This is something that if you are kind of stuck emotionally right now, it's something that you are really trying to bear by yourself. And possibly it may be because you don't entirely feel fulfilled by all the little projects and things that you're doing currently. I think that you like the material success of it, because right now you see yourself as the Nine of Wands. So you see yourself as having a lot of success circulating around you. You have money right now, which is really good. You feel like you're on a good track financially. possibly this is. I feel like this is possibly feeding a lifestyle that is making you too comfortable and um, is not showing you a path to more fulfilling happiness. I get the sense that whatever happiness you have been deriving from the success that you've had with all of this career stuff, which is great. I mean, I don't think that there's anything wrong with this. I just think that the reading is saying that there is a little bit more to your life that you could be tapping into. And the reason for this is the Ten of Cups at the top of your reading, which is pretty clear in saying that the best that can come out of this is just a very basic kind of happiness. It's not a particularly life-changing kind of happiness. It's a tolerable happiness, honestly. And you guys know, if you've been watching my channel a lot, you know that for me, the Ten of Cups is not the card that it is for Arthur Edward Waite. And so I do not interpret that card as a real fulfillment of happiness and a real profound kind of joy. I don't really interpret it as that because I don't see it as representing that. So it really represents a transitory sense of happiness as a very, I don't want to say superficial, although the Seven of Cups, which is here in your reading, sort of gives it that element, but it's a very transitory kind of happiness. It doesn't last long, and you're always feeling like you need to move on to the next thing. And perhaps that's part of it. Possibly you feel like you've needed to take on all of these projects and things because you feel like you need to make yourself stand out, and you feel that this is a way for you to do that. And at the same time, though, it isn't actually making you necessarily as happy as you think you could. And again, it doesn't say what it is that you could be doing differently that would be more in line with whatever your true will is, but I would sense that you already have some kind of inclination as to what that is, more so than I do. In which case, you just need to listen to yourself more. And again, I think that the reason I think that you have a better clue about what it is you could be doing instead than I do is because of the star in your past. I think that you have understood in the past what direction your life could go in, and you've had kind of intuitive inclinations, and it's not like you haven't had big dreams in the past, and it's not like you've had big goals or insights into what your purpose is in the grander scheme of things. I think you're just choosing not to pursue those things because the competitive aspects of this and also the material success of what you've chosen to do instead has been, I kind of want to say, a little distracting, and also just you've invested yourself so heavily in them. And again, it's something that I feel like you just feel like, I feel like you've put a lot of pressure on yourself, and I don't know why I'm getting that, because it's not really something that the Prince of Cups is associated with, but maybe it's just reading from personal experience. The Prince of Cups is a very motivated, very ambitious person. He just goes about it in a way that is very subtle and very crafty. He's not like the Knight of Wands or the Prince of Wands or even the Knight of Swords, which is your significator in this case. But he goes about his work very quietly, and he's just so internalized, and everything about him is internalized. And so it's almost like you're closing yourself off in a way. And on one hand, I think that you fear that this is going to not really give you much happiness. Certainly that is a fear of yours. You have the Five of Cups in your hopes and fears, again ruled by Mars, and you have the Three of Discs in your immediate future, also ruled by Mars. So in the immediate future, you do have projects and a lot of work ahead of you. You have a lot of tasks that you're going to have to do, a lot of collaboration with people. But you are concerned that that isn't going to really make you happy. That is that it's not going to pan out the way that you want it to, that it's going to fall short of your expectations. And that certainly is a big concern running throughout this reading with that Five of Cups. And it resonates so strongly with the Ten of Cups in your crown position. The interesting thing is that you do have the Four of Wands in the bottom of your deck. And the reason that interests me is that because that sort of finds a happy medium between the Nine of discs on the bottom of your deck, on the bottom of your reading here, for your perspective, with all of the fire cards and all of the Mars energy that is also in the reading. Because the Four of Wands is, of course, Venus in a fiery suit. So it kind of branches those two ideas. So the kind of completion and kind of establishment that the Four of Discs is talking about as far as the theme of your reading is more about finding a niche for you that allows you to balance both of those concepts. To balance both material success and your ambition, and also your sense of self. I have this feeling that you're depressed in a way that you're not telling people, to be very honest with you. And I think that you just don't feel fulfilled in really. And that Prince of Cups in the middle with the Seven of Cups is so strong, and so it's really bogging down whatever positivity I am getting from any of the more active cards in your reading. It's like despite having all of this activity around you and having all this stuff that's going on and all of this success, you're so bogged down emotionally. Everything feels so heavy, and it's so privatized too. You're not opening up about it. That I don't know. I don't know what you should do. The overall outcome too is it is clear. You're clearly intuitive because your question has answered itself for you, honestly. Are you too overextended? Your overall outcome is the Prince of Swords. So yes, you're a little overextended right now. And you have three different princes of three different elements right now in your reading. So your personality is divided between three different energies. On one hand, you've got a very deep personal life that you don't really share with other people, yet externally people see you as the Prince of Wands, very optimistic, really much of a go-getter, someone who's really passionate about their beliefs and what they want to do with their life. People think that you've got your stuff together and that you really know what it is you're meant to do, and you just are doing it and living really in the light of that. But the reality is you're still figuring it out, and in the long run, you're just distracted by all the different things that you've accumulated for yourself, and you're not really pulled in one specific direction. You're sort of just pulled in a number of different directions at once, and that is your overall outcome. So I just, I feel like it's very important for you to try to reconcile these three different identities that you have right now. And to try to, I just think you need to look backwards a little bit more. Instead of looking at the here and now and looking too deeply into the present, I feel like you need to look into the past more. And the reason for that, again, is the star in your past. It's sort of the strongest, most most positive energy in your reading, and it is in your past. And it is also the only thing in here that indicates any sense of what your true will could be, or where you could find more information about what that is and how you can pursue it. The star is what would have indicated that to you in your past, but it is an influence that you have let go of. And I don't know why. I think possibly just because you've gotten lost in the daily grind, and that is expected. That's sort of what happens to a lot of people, so it's understandable. But I think that if you reflect more on your past and what your previous hopes and aspirations used to be, perhaps you can find some inspiration there to try to figure out how you can make all of this work. So to answer your question, yes, I do think you're a little hyperextended. I do think that there are other issues, at least, if anything can be said, I think that there are other emotional issues that you need to really consider why they're happening in your life, what the source of them is. Why are you so unhappy? Do you really enjoy the competition, or do you not? Do you find it too stressful? Do you find that there's too much pressure on you? Um, and what are your real hopes and dreams? What are your real aspirations? Because you want to pursue them while you have the chance, and not before the opportunity passes you by. I think it's interesting that you mentioned in your email that you've been getting the same cards in your readings that you used to get when you got tarot readings. When you used to do tarot readings for yourself, excuse me. And it's almost like the star is adding to that to that sense that you need to look in the past, that the past is still very relevant for you in this current situation. And that's why your readings are bringing up the past for you. It's almost like you need to be reminded of what the past was trying to tell you, because the past was trying to show you the right way. And you've gotten stuck in this one way of doing things because it's what you've gotten used to, and you're just stuck there. And possibly it could also be considered laziness. That's another interpretation of the Seven of Cups, which is certainly possible, though it's kind of hard to say that you're lazy in any way, shape, or form when you're clearly going about doing so much, and you're clearly still a motivated person. So it doesn't really make sense to call you lazy in that sense, but perhaps you're lazy in the sense that you've gotten comfortable in where you are, and so you're not really as willing to move in a different direction. So maybe that's all I mean by lazy. I don't necessarily mean that you're a lazy person and you don't want to do anything at all. That's certainly not what I'm saying. So I hope that this makes sense, and I really think that the answer to this question is more in your hands than it is mine. As I said at the beginning of this reading, that's kind of what I suggested, and lo and behold, I believe I was a little right there. But I am glad that the star came up and was able to kind of point us in at least some direction for you, okay? So I do think that there are some answers here. I think you just need to take some time and really think about them, and think about your emotional situation, because I think that emotionally that is also pointing you in the right direction, that your emotions are trying to intuitively clue you in that something's not quite right, and you're just not as happy as you could be. So I will leave you with that. I think you have some work ahead of you, but I wish you the best of luck, and I think that I definitely don't think that this is a bad reading. It's not like there are particularly negative cards in here. I just think that it's saying that, you're in a bit of a rut. So if you have any questions, let me know, and I hope it helps as always. Thank you so much for your purchase, and hopefully I'll get to read for you again sometime. So thank you very much again, and good luck. Bye-bye.